Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to speak to you. Easy one first. I mean, I guess whether or not that's all right. Whether or not people have seen Cronenberg's 1988 version or not, what can people expect from your version of Dead Ringers?
Really shocking. Fair enough. I mean, it's
Twisted,
psychosexual thriller.
darkly comedic.
Quiet has to be gone playing.
It's got an incredible central performance by Rachel Weisz.
How did you find
And
that?
it's a ride.
Yeah, hopefully it's a wild ride. It starts quite grounded in a world that is recognizable, and as it goes on, it gets more heightened and quite operatic and
challenging and
quite extreme, and it goes into a world of what we call near-fi, because it's science fiction that's just about within our reach.
And you were sort of mentioning there about the comedic tone. So I really want to come to this tone because it's sexy, it's subversive, but it often is quite funny, despite kind of the dark subject matter and the body horror. So what was that tone that you wanted to capture, and what do you think special about that?
I mean, I think it was always really intentional that we wanted it to kind of be lots of things, that we wanted it to be like hopefully moving and dark, but also it was really important to us that it was funny. I mean, when we were talking right from the early days, those conversations were really fun, I think. So you sort of want to recreate that and want to have a sort of world and a story that feels like it's going to be exciting and funny and engaging and all the things to watch.
And was that ever challenging for you, almost trying to have banter with yourself, but so you have to trying to get the comic time must be even more difficult?
I mean, the whole job was a huge challenge, but it was delightful to me that the writing had this sort of mischievous, dark humor in it, alongside some really serious subject matter. So it just made it joyful to perform. The fact that the writing was so funny.
And, in terms of pulling off kind of having one person play two roles, that must have been technically challenging, but also from your point of view. I know Jeremy Irons was saying he used to think of two different points of energy to sort of have the internal difference in the characters. So what was your approach from both sides of the camera?
I was definitely familiar with.
Well, I had the writing. I had Alice's words, and these characters were completely different women. So their centers of gravity are different because of their psychological aspect and their interior life. And Alice just wrote them with so many kind of archaeological layers, like we all are. We're all made up of millions of things, and we've had many experiences, and they felt like totally distinct characters. So it came from the writing, yeah. But Elliot's more kind of impatient and is always moving around, and Beverly's more still and quiet and
very much a lot of
interior, to say it in a little nutshell.
To portray
And creatively, I mean, Rachel was in the writer's room, so I think that kind of also makes for it just means that the conversation, by the time we come to shooting, is really complex and it's really deep, and we've been part of the conversation together for such a long time. Technically, it was a huge team effort with an amazing VFX crew. Like everybody was focused on how to pull off the twinning, and so that
Question. Pretty good question.
I mean, did the world feel ready for Cronenberg's at the time? It was so, and still is, like groundbreaking as well. So I think, hopefully they're not quite ready, I guess, for ours either. I think you always want to be kind of pushing.
Be surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think anyone that's in the mood for a kind of twisted psychosexual thriller about two very dysfunctional, codependent twins, then it's for them. But yes, it is set now, so it does intersect with contemporary medicine, and also something that we call near-fi science, because it's science that's just out of reach, but we're almost upon it, right? Yeah. So it's now and it's then. Yeah. Future. Tomorrow. Thank you. I think we were interested in those subjects.
I feel like we haven't really seen that on television. I think as soon as we knew that the twins were going to be obstetricians as well as gynecologists, which is a slight different from the Cronenberg, I think you start thinking about who are the patients, who are they going to meet, and then you sort of can't really stop. That's like there's so much out there. You do a little bit of research and suddenly you're just overwhelmed with the amount of incredible stories out there. And it was just, as Rachel said, like interesting.
And there were a lot of patients that got and stories that were left
Yeah.
out. Which was want to include them.
Very
but,
sad part, yeah.
it was a big challenge, definitely the biggest challenge of my professional life. Yeah, I was going to say career. It sounded very grand, but yeah, I've got one. But it really came from the writing. So these two distinct characters that are completely different to each other. Elliot's really hungry and voracious and full of appetite and easily bored, and Beverly's quiet and patient and careful, and they have different dreams, big dreams for changing the world of medicine. But on the page, I had Alice's words, so they were completely two separate people with psychological layers and depth and contradictions within them, which is what makes characters real to me. So basically, my short answer is the words, penned by Madame. Yeah.
I mean, we just approach the best writers, and you know, it's a writer's room is always it's hopefully a really incredible safe space for people to share sometimes personal stories, but also go on this kind of imaginative exploration together. And I feel like people like really did that. They brought their own